Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal fight to survive a post-apocalyptic world in an adaptation of the acclaimed video game The Last of Us. Set in a post-apocalyptic world where a mutated fungus is turning humans into cannibalistic creatures, PlayStation game The Last of Us was released in 2013 to widespread acclaim. Particularly regarding the central relationship between gruff survivor Joel and his charge Ellie, a teenager who is seemingly immune to the virus. Many fans observed that the game's compelling narrative would lend itself well to a live-action adaptation. And the game's creator Neil Druckmann teamed up with Chernobyl writer Craig Mazin to bring The Last of Us to TV. Starring The Mandalorian's Pedro Pascal as Joel and Game of Thrones star Bella Ramsey as Ellie. TV and Satellite Week caught up with Pascal, 47, and Ramsey, 19, to find out about turning the best-selling game into a thrilling 9-part series. How familiar were you with The Last of Us before you joined the project? Ramsey: it was one of the only video games I had heard of apart from Call of Duty and Fortnite, so it was cool when I got the email through. I was like, ooh, I recognize this. I wasn't a gamer. But I was immediately thrust into the world of it and found out what a great impact it had. Pascal: I remember calling my sister to tell her about the possibility of being cast. She was in a car with my nephews, who are teenage boys. I think you know where this is going. I was like, there's this job, it's based on a video game called The L, and I didn't even get the AST out before my nephews were like, The Last of Us. They were really freaked out. And I understood immediately, okay, this is a big deal and I hope I get it. How does Joel and Ellie's relationship evolve as the series progresses? Ramsey: I think they're mirrors of each other. They clash so much at the beginning because of that, they're so stubborn and reluctant to open up to one another. But as time goes on and they become each other's only grounding element of the world around them, those mirrors become windows where they can really see each other for the first time. When preparing for these roles, did you look at how Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson played Joel and Ellie in the game? Pascal: I needed to see Troy Baker's Joel to do my Joel, if that makes sense, not to do any kind of copying, but just to incorporate an entire picture. That made sense for me to be able to really be in it. Ramsey: I remember Ashley and Troy posted something when the news was announced. It felt really nice to have their blessing because their work is so fantastic and set us up really well. Ellie is a very rebellious character. What did you draw on to portray her strength? Ramsey: at one point Pedro started calling me Rebelli. I'm grateful to have the experience of playing these sorts of characters, beginning with the first character I ever got to play, Lyanna Mormont in Game of Thrones. She had a strength about her, and I think Ellie is a very different expression of it. Ellie's strength is maybe the initial thing that you notice, but underneath she's this very fragile, vulnerable young person whose greatest fear is ending up alone. You were both in Game of Thrones, although not at the same time. Did you know each other before this? Ramsey: I'd heard of you, but we had never met. Pascal: my head was well squished by the time you showed up. Pascal played the ill-fated Oberyn Martell, who perished in Season 4. Ramsey: the first time we met on set, it was this brief meeting, we'd messaged a bit before, and the second time we met, we were filming together. Pascal: I wonder if it was strategic on the part of Craig and Neil to force us not to get to know each other beforehand. It was such a great way for the characters to make their way towards each other in the story. How did you find the experience of working together? Pascal: we would get the giggles in a horrific way. Although it was primarily Bella's fault. Ramsey: I disagree, I think it was your fault. You were aware that I was a giggler, and you really made the most of it. Pascal: no, you were aware that I couldn't resist the contagiousness of your giggling, and yet you were still incapable of controlling yourself, knowing what it would do to me. Ramsey: okay, I can't fight that. Pascal: I guess we have some unresolved issues around that. Ramsey, we're working on it. We're in couples therapy. Who's WHO in the last of US? Joel, Pedro Pascal, a military veteran whose daughter was killed by the virus. Joel is hired to escort Ellie out of a quarantine zone to a safe area. Ellie is sarcastic and combative, but yearns to make a human connection. Her apparent immunity to the virus could be key to creating a vaccine. Tess is Joel's smuggling partner at the start of the series. She's tough and resourceful, but she's also keeping a big secret from him. Following the outbreak, Joel's brother Tommy still believes in a better world, although the two have become separated. Marlene is the head of a movement trying to break away from military rule. She hires Joel to escort Ellie out of the quarantine zone.